getting an update to an almost 30-year-old MMO story that has become legend was not on my 2024 bingo card. But that's where we're at, because we know a little bit more about Lord British getting, well, murdered. By now, you've probably already heard about how Lord British of Ultima Online fame was murdered. By accident, kind of, but not really. And you know what? The best way to do it is I've covered it in a short. It's probably the easiest way to convey this information right now, so here's the short. One of the most infamous moments in MMO history all happened because of a dev's simple mistake and one player's burning curiosity. Back in 1997, when MMOs were young, Lord British, founder of Ultima Online, dared to address players of the new MMO. No one could have expected what happened next. Reigns, a player for the MMO, got a little frisky. As Lord British was addressing the gathered crowd, he cast a wall of fire spell beneath the venerable creator. To the shock of everyone gathered, Lord British died, succumbing to the flames of the wayward player. You see, on this fateful day, Richard Garriott had forgotten to turn on invulnerability, something that was always done before. But that's not actually the most interesting part of what happened that day. You see, in response to Lord British being slain, the devs in attendance proceeded to summon demons in retaliation, and they rampaged about indiscriminately killing players who had absolutely nothing to do with the murder of Lord British. Believe it or not, that short has 4.2 million views here and close to 2 million views on TikTok. It's also my #1 source of imposter syndrome that keeps me up at night wondering if I haven't built this entire channel on a pile of sand that will one day collapse around me. But we also have an update in 2024 to the story from 1997. And this update actually comes from Raph Koster himself. Raph Koster was the lead designer of Ultima Online who worked with Richard Garriott, Lord British, on the game. It all comes courtesy of a tweet by Scott Miller, co-creator of games like Duke Nukem, Max Payne, and Prey, who tweeted out this image of a November 1997 PC gamer, perhaps the most detailed direct rundown of the infamous murder of Lord British we have. So much so that when I saw this, I wanted to go and find the actual copy of it so I could get one and like add it to my nerd library. And unfortunately, I couldn't find it. Not even a digital copy, but we have this one. And it's kind of awesome to think that this actually got its own story in PC Gamer, a story that actually interviewed the assassin. I posted the full image on Blue Sky, which I've linked down below, so you can go check it out if you want to like take time to read it specifically if you didn't pause here. But the thing is, all of that information wasn't new. That wasn't new stuff. That was just a more detailed account of some of the things we already knew about what had happened. Except this kind of amusing take from Richard Garriott, quote, "I was shocked. At first, I wasn't even sure what had happened. I was so confident in my immortality that I basically walked into the wall of fire thinking, ha, you can't scare me. Then, when my screen turned black and white, I was stunned and thought, oh no, what have I done?" The irony of that last statement is, oh no, what have I done, is exactly what I thought when I downloaded Shroud of the Avatar. But in the tweet from Scott Miller, we got some context and a response. Scott Miller said, quote, "It was big news when Lord British was killed in the game by another player. I remember first hearing about this and thinking it was a pretty clever marketing stunt." Raph Koster responded to say, quote, "It actually spoiled our marketing stunt because we planned to have him die at the end of the beta. We did go ahead and kill him a second time, but it wasn't the same." Never really is the same when you kill Lord British a second time, is it? So as confirmed by Raph Koster, they'd planned before this happened to actually go ahead and kill off Lord British, specifically for a marketing stunt. But it was preempted by chance. And that's pretty incredible to think about, not just for the immediate ramifications of it happening, but that we're still talking about it today. Essentially an accident, a confluence of small events leading to an MMO legend that has lasted for decades. Richard Garriott accidentally not being invulnerable, Reigns deciding to do it, that night having the fire scroll to steal, and it actually working. I think it's safe to say that if Raph, Richard Garriott, and the rest of the team had had their way with their original plan, killing Lord British to end the beta, the story would have had some traction. It had been a good short-term marketing plan, especially in a time when online games were new and novel. It'd probably have even had a similar spread in PC Gamer magazine. Well, maybe without the interview of the murderer, because that probably would have just been like Raph Koster. But I don't think that this would have had the same staying power. Plenty of MMO events happen like this all the time, especially during testing phases. Evercraft Online, for example, has ended each of their testing phases with events. Pantheon, shortly after seasons opened, tried to slay everyone by spawning a bunch of dragons at the end of that phase. And perhaps most recently, and most connected, Ashes of Creation ended their second test weekend for Alpha 2 with players trying to murder the game director, Stephen Sharif, who appeared as a PvP raid boss, who spawned ducklings. That is a story in and of itself, but it's one that still has an ending to be written. So I want to hold off on going too deep into that one on Ashes of Creation, because it could end up being something special, or it could fall flat. I'm still waiting to see exactly how it ends.
We have to do a ferret. That's the way to do it, dude. Because there's no ferret in the video game. Wish for the game to be released? Oh, that's not going to happen. My desire is to renew this world with creatures beyond our current imagining. For Vera to be reborn, it will need to be remade with a host of new creatures. The first of which should be particularly long, with the curiosity to investigate the world and the fearlessness to do so. We should call it a ferret. No ferrets yet? Okay, done. Abba! Done. Set.
Your wish is granted, and suddenly you just get swarmed by 1,000 aggressive level.
Dude, what if he did?
Ferrets.
What if he just summoned a million ferrets and just deletes us?
I mean, I'd be fine with it. It should smell like candy floss.
Yeah, candy floss. It should fly, shoot lasers out of its eyes. Oh, you said very well, mortal. Allow me a moment in the river of time to consider your request. Though the flame of creation burns brightly, even I must weigh the worth of your wish. Patience is a virtue, but be mindful. The light of the decision will soon dawn, and your fate shall be shaped accordingly.
So we'll circle back to that one. But the grander point to all of this is that these moments may live on in infamy in the memories of those players. Like, for I guess the example for me, the werewolf event in EverQuest. That's not really known except for the people that actually were there. But I think it's the shock and the accidental nature of the story of Lord British being burned at the altar of hubris by a 23-year-old Ultima Online player who just wanted to have some fun that really makes it stick with you. Lord British said let them eat cake, and he was burned alive for it, which is a weird as thing to say if I wasn't talking about a video game. It's a video game. Don't demonetize this. No pre-planned marketing ploy could ever capture that kind of moment, that kind of legend, the way that this did. But it's sure as hell of a lot of fun to try too, and I really wish more MMOs would do things like this, because those memories with those players, those events, those special events, are really one of the things that make a game feel like a living and breathing world. Quick thank you to all my patrons and members. You are beautiful, wonderful people. I appreciate you so much. If you want to become a patron to support this channel, you can do so at the links below, and you will get ad-free videos over on Patreon specifically.